Hey everybody, it's Alicia. Welcome to another episode of Tears at the Table. I am excited because this is my first time today meeting Yvonne, and I stumbled across her website one day and I was really impressed with the things she's doing. She's a storyteller, she's an adventurer, a traveler, wife, mom, so many different hats, and I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit more about herself. Welcome, Yvonne.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and talk to everybody. Um, a little bit about myself. As we were talking before this, I was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland. And so travel's always kind of been in my blood. And then you throw in my faith, and it's just been a great combination of fun things to go and do and see for doing the work for the Lord and sharing the gospel around the world. So that's kind of been my thing that I've been doing the last 20 or 30 years. It's been a lot of fun.
It sounds like an amazing life and right in line with the things I love, actually. I would love to get to know a little bit more about your story in life, though. What's been your journey with Jesus? Where did it start and where are you now?
Okay, great. I did accept Christ as a young child. We left Ireland when I was just young, and we immigrated first to Canada. And so a little church, Riverside Baptist Church in Windsor, Canada. I accepted Christ. I was probably about 8 or 9. I never had the exact date, but it was between 8 and 9. And so I've been a Christian for a long time. But really, as you grow up and you get into high school and college, you kind of fall away from the faith because you want to go do life. And we were doing that. I met my husband in high school. We got married after college, and we were in that spot. We would go to church, but that was about it. Sunday was God's day, everything else was our day. And we had 2 kids. Life was going along great. And then we decided we'd have one more because we had 2 girls. And it's like, boy, it'd be nice to have a son. And so he was born in September of 93 and died 9 days later. And shocked us, obviously, because that's not how you ever expect life to go. And so it was a long journey, a lot of dealing with grief and depression for several years. But the one thing I learned is okay, we do not really have any control in this life. And with knowing that and seeing that, it's like, okay, I've got to trust God in all of this. And so that is when my faith really started to deepen and it became my faith instead of just going to church on Sunday. A couple years after he passed came an opportunity to go on a mission trip to Haiti was my first one. And when our church talked about it, it's like this would be a neat way to honor my son's memory and just go and do because it was going to be working with children. And I thought I could go do this in memory of him. And so I went and got the bug of mission work. And so it was an amazing trip. Of all the places we've been, would be the one place that I don't want to ever go back to because Haiti was not a great place. Still a great experience. And we came home, we'd taken about 8 or 9 youth with us on the trip. My husband didn't go. And when we came home, not only my husband, but all the kids that went with us, it's like, okay, we want to go somewhere else. And that just started the train of us going to different places and doing mission work. And that's where we are. It went on, I guess, in 2015. We've done all this mission work for all these years. And I start getting this little nudge from God, the little voice saying, you've seen so many great things. You should write them down. And I laughed. I really laughed. Okay, Lord, no, you don't, you know me. This would not ever be my thing to write. And so went along and it's like I finally prayed, okay, Lord, if this is really you, because then you start thinking, okay, this is me trying to take credit. And it's like, okay, Lord, if this is really you, I want my husband to mention this. And putting that fleece out there. And a month went by, I hadn't told him any of this. And about a month went by, and we're sitting in the living room. And my husband one night goes, oh, by the way, how's that book coming along? And I start crying. And he's like, what? And I explained the whole thing. He goes, well, I guess we're writing a book. And so I wrote my first book on the journeys of the mission trip and what God has done and through my life on the mission field and thought, okay, I fulfilled my purpose for God. I wrote my book. I'm done. Well, no, that was never God's plan. And so COVID happened, I was right on different social media accounts, was writing a lot of prayers daily because we were all so stressed during COVID. Had a publisher contact me, like, hey, let's put together a prayer journal. And then from there, it's just snowballed. Book 8 is out, came out in February. I've several children's books now. Book 9 is with my publisher. It's coming out in January. So it's like, okay, Lord, I guess this is what you got me doing now. So it's been
I,
a journey.
I love hearing that and how it's clear that it's been God that brought you on that journey. I think there's this idea that we control our own lives at
Yep.
times. And I'm 100% a planner. I will confess that. I have the most elaborate planner you could ever have. But I've always found that God switches the plan, and it's always about he gives you the idea and he tells you what's going to happen, but you can't write how he does it. Like you said, the publishing came about because of your prayer journal. It
Yep.
didn't come about necessarily the way you expected. And that's one of the things I love when you
Oh,
can.
he's so good about that. Yeah. And when you just sit back and let him do the directing, it just falls into place. And like with the first book, I wrote it and it's like, I have no idea how you go about publishing. I don't know anything about this industry. It's like, okay, Lord, if I did my part, if you want it published, you got to make that happen because I don't know, and so looking back, I see all the things he did to make this happen because it wasn't me. It, and I still sometimes look back over the stuff and I'll reread something I've written. And it's like, "Ooh, Lord, you did that," because I wouldn't have come up with those words. And it's just amazing the things he can do through us.
I agree 100%. This is a side note as I was looking through your books and everything. You had the book about Mary's Kenya's
Yeah,
adventure.
Mary the Missionary, Kenyan Adventure.
Yes. So as a little girl, my mom would read to us for an hour, like seriously, like an hour every night until I was a teenager around.
Oh, wow.
And our favorite books were an author called Dave and Netta Jackson, if you're familiar with them.
No, I'm not.
It reminds me of that. My mom said ever since I was a little girl, I would be obsessed with them. It's stories of missionaries all over the world.
Yep.
And it would be the stories of like how they would go Hudson Taylor down the river. And it would be from a child's perspective. And it felt like while you were reading that book, you were there. Like you
Yep.
were over in that country and you saw what God is doing there. I think that's so cool that you have that because children learn so much when they're young about having
Yes.
the heart to go anywhere and do anything simply from opening a book.
Yeah, exactly. And the children's book started because I finally were having grandkids, and you looked around, and it's like, okay, there's not there. I mean, there are good kids' books, but there's not the good Christian ones that I want my kids, also grandkids, to read. So the first few are for younger kids, and then as they age, it's like, okay, what can I write that will capture their attention and show them what God can do. And so once this next book comes out in January, it's a devotional. So it's not children. Mary the Missionary, there'll be another book of hers. I'm hoping to do 3 or 4 in this series eventually, because I think kids can have a different perspective of life. And it's like, hey, I can go do this. And with their parents, obviously, but they're just so open to things.
They are, I agree. And I want to ask along that lines of missions and stuff, what has been your favorite adventure you've gone on anywhere?
Probably I would have to say we have an orphanage we run in Myanmar. We also have one in Nepal. But we finally, back about 6 years ago, Myanmar opened for a short, as far as allowing tourists. And we were finally able to go and visit. We did 3 visits. They're now back into war, so we can't visit right now. But the second visit we went, but well, after the first visit, he's like, I want you to come back and I want you to do a women's conference, something I had never done. And so it's like, okay. And so he's like, I want you to plan it all, write it all, and you're doing all the speaking. It's like, what? And it's like, okay, so we came home from the first trip and I worked on that and got it all written out. And we went back and I taught. It was a 3-day conference in this little church, and we had 530 women there.
Mm.
And it was just so powerful to spend time with those women and share the gospel and share just about life. What can they do to be the best Christian possible? And so we had a whole program laid out, but it was just so amazing to to do that. Well, I've done several other conferences, but that was just, and to be in Myanmar, in a country that they don't know a lot of tourists because it's been closed for so many years, and to see a country where there's not a tourist industry. So we just got to go and be like locals, and it was really an awesome experience.
That's really incredible. I was telling you, we were talking about Oklahoma earlier. I was telling you my best friend lives there, and we went to Thailand, and her
Oh, yes.
helped with founding an orphanage there. And we got to be the first missions team to go to that orphanage. And
Oh,
she's
wow.
told me stories about how hard it is to share the gospel because they did multiple countries when she was a kid. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to get in there. That's absolutely incredible for you to have the opportunity for that many women to show
Oh,
up
yeah,
and
it was
gospel.
amazing. And we went through Thailand coming and going because Myanmar is just a country over. So Thailand's a pretty neat. We did not do ministry there. It was just our layover. We spent a couple days there. If I'm going to go that far and fly through somewhere, it's like, okay, we'll add on a few days to go have some fun and see things.
Yep. I think that is neat. And we did do the Golden Triangle, but it was like a
Oh,
15-minute, 1 hour stop.
oh, that beauty. It's still amazing though.
It is. I love that you shared that because I definitely have a heart for that. And I remember hearing about the religions that are big in that area.
Yeah.
And I met an older woman and I watched her get baptized while they played the song No Turning Back.
Oh,
And
wow.
that just changed my perspective of baptism because she was, according to her religions, killing all chances for her ancestors.
Wow.
And she
Yeah, it's
still chose.
amazing.
Yeah, there is something very powerful and unique. Whereas here in America, there's so much need. I 100% stand
Oh,
with,
yes. Yes.
but there's something so special being somewhere like Myanmar where people may have never, ever, ever heard the gospel.
And in Thailand also so oppressed for if they do accept Christ that we do have a little bit of persecution in this country,
Yeah.
but not. I always think of one story from the conference. There was one lady got up because we do some question and answers, and she got up and she was explaining that her husband was still a Hindu, and for her to be able to go to church each Sunday once she accepted Christ, he would beat her before she would go to try to get her to change her mind. But she's like, I realized what Jesus did for me. I can at least take a beating in order to do it for him. Not saying any women should accept a beating, but that was just her testimony. And it was just, wow, could we still go to church in those circumstances? And it was just so powerful.
That is incredibly powerful. I want to kind of shift into like you were talking about her story, and you talk on your website about serving the least of these, caring for those who do have needs. Like that
Yep.
is so horrible what happened to her. And it's also horrible. We talk in the US about foster care and we talk about
Yes.
adoption a lot. We talk about people wanting homes. I work in foster care actually. And what you put on your website was so profound, and I agree. It's like, no, we don't want orphanages, but we recognize there are no other options. That the only thing we can do at this moment in time is orphanages. And for me, I truly believe, having worked in residential, that places like orphanages not only meet a need, but they raise awareness to the
Yep.
entire community that the need is there and
Yeah.
it's in
And
front of them.
yep. And there's areas, the areas we're in, Myanmar and Nepal, there isn't the option of foster care. They don't adopt out of country. Some of the kids we've had in our Nepal orphanage, there was one little boy, 6 years old, that we rescued off the streets. He had never been potty trained. His mom remarried, and the new stepdad said, I can't accept somebody else's child, and kicked him out at 6. When the government is not set up to take care of these kids, and the only option is an orphanage, and we're Christian orphanages, so we're held to a little bit different standard because we trust God with everything we're doing. But it's amazing how many people, when they hear that, they're like, no, no, orphanage shouldn't exist. And I understand what they're saying. It would be in a perfect world, yes, they should never exist, but we're not in a perfect world.
I like the way you phrased that and explained it. And
Yeah.
we're headed towards the end, but before I ask the final question, I wanted to say, how did you get started in doing an orphanage?
After the third mission trip I did, we went to Kenya, which we've done many times now. We met with a bunch of people in Kenya, and they're like, the AIDS epidemic was, and it still exists, but it was at its height in those years. It was the year 2000. And they're like, we can't take care of these orphans. And this was meeting with the bishop in the church and that. And he's like, we have thousands and thousands of them. We do not have the means for even other families to take these kids in. They're overwhelmed. And so we built our first orphanage there in Kenya. And it has just gone on since then because my husband and I realized that sometimes this has to be the solution. And we had almost 100 girls. We did a girls' orphanage there. We had almost 100 girls at that orphanage. Our one in Myanmar, we have 55 kids. It's a mixture of boys and girls. And in our Nepal one, we have about 30 kids. And there is no other options for these kids in these areas. So it's a need. It's a definite need.
That's really incredible. And I want to finish off with this last question and ask you, what would you say to a young woman that sees a need like that and wants to do something and take action the way you did?
Well, you start off with prayer because nothing can happen without the prayer to begin with. And there's so many things, as you said, there are so many needs here locally in the US. God took a big issue in our lives, the death of our child, and it became a big stepping stone to go out and do the level of work we do. But that's not how everybody starts. While we're here in this country, even when our kids were little, like at Thanksgiving, we went to homeless shelters and participated in the Thanksgiving meal where you're serving people. We still do that. We also, usually once a week, it got canceled this week. We work with the Salvation Army and we go out on a Tuesday night and go to the homeless encampment and provide meals and other clothing if people have donated and that. So there are many ways to get started because so often I hear people saying things like, well, my tax dollars go to doing this. And yes, they do. And that is good, or I donate. But we're called personally by Christ and by the Bible that we should be doing this ourselves as well. And so we do things through different organizations here in the US through our church when they're doing events. We just did a big program where you create meals that are boxed up and sent overseas to help feed the homeless in other countries. So there are many things you can start off doing in this country that don't take a lot of time, definitely don't take a lot of money, but just make a big difference in lives. And once you do that and you interact with other people that are in need, it opens your eyes to that homeless person is just like the rest of us. They're just down and out at the moment. But so many times when we're doing the Salvation Army things, they'll say to us, "Let us pray for you too." And it's just an amazing exchange to know we're all human and wanting the same thing in life.
I absolutely love what you said there. My heart is the US and I have a heart to travel the whole world, but I grew up myself in the inner city, came from Eastern Kentucky, and so I've seen every level of poverty from every race in the United States at this point. And there is such a need here.
Yep.
And I agree 100%. That's why I'm where I'm at now. People look at me and they see me running nonprofits. They see me working in nonprofits and they're like, "Oh, you did that." And I ended up with those jobs because of where I was serving,
Yeah.
not because I sought out starting anything. It was because I jumped in and started serving somewhere. Even tonight, I still have a commitment. While I work in nonprofits, I have people I work with just because I can.
Yeah.
Tonight, I was mucking stalls, and I love doing that for a place that provides equine therapy to kids. And
Yeah.
I think you are always at your best when you're serving. And
Yes.
when you are serving, God can open those doors and
Very
amazing.
much so.
And you'll find yourself running the very place you were serving at the bottom level at, which was my case. But
Yeah.
that's not always what's going to happen. But you said that well because there are girls who take on that burden, who say, I have to do this because these kids won't be saved without me.
Right.
And that's simply not true. It's like your orphanages are great. The nonprofits I work with are great, but at the end of the day, we all need somebody to look us in the eyes and say we're loved by
Exactly.
Jesus and that
Yeah.
we're seen and heard.
And I always make a point when we're doing the feedings on Tuesday night, when we're handing out it's bag lunch, bag meals, and I always, what's your name? And a lot of them end up on my prayer list, and it's because when you hear their stories, but it's just because we all want to be seen in this world, and they do too. And these women that I work with in other countries in the conferences, they all just want to be seen by somebody that somebody cares, you know. And if some of the women that follow your blog and that and your podcast, even if you have little kids, get them involved in things. A lot of times, the different organizations, like at Thanksgiving or Christmas, they can go participate. I know a lot of times our church does, you know, we're a giving tree where you pick up ornament off that has an item some child wants for Christmas. Go shopping together. There's so many ways you can start it off. And the only thing I would caution is once you start doing it, though, it's going to take over your heart. So just be prepared because that's the way it was with all the mission work we've done. It's just like, okay, I can't even imagine my life not doing this anymore.
I love that. That's an amazing note to end on. And thank you so much for coming on. You have an amazing story. I love everything you're doing.
Well,
Pray that
thank you.
God continues to bless all of it.
And it's God's story,
Yes, I always.
always. Thank you.
Thank you.